How's it going, everybody? It's Cody with Level Up Games here, and I'm sitting here with John Melissari, who was one of our locals who actually went down to the Pokemon Regionals down in Charlotte a couple weeks ago. How you doing today, John?
Good, good.
Fantastic. So you're one of the few people that went down there. I believe we had probably 5 locals go down, and only you and Josh Everly made day 2 out
Yep.
of the locals that went down. I know you had a decent day 1. Why don't you tell us how day 1 went for you?
So I was gonna actually play Gardevoir at this tournament, and about midnight the night before the tournament, I was playtesting with my buddy that I went with, and I played 4 games with Gardevoir, and my head hurt really bad from thinking and playing the game. So I decided that if I can't play 4 games with Gardevoir without my head hurting, how could I play potentially 20 games with Gardevoir without my head hurting? So I decided to make a last-minute audible to Roaring Moon. I think it was the right call. I started day 1 4-0, which is actually very different than how Josh started day 1. He was on the other end of the spectrum, but we both made day 2, which was cool. So yeah, that's a little bit of how day 1 went. I played against Rapid Strike round 1, which, if you don't know the meta too well, Gardevoir just almost auto loses that deck. And Roaring Moon auto wins that matchup. So I was very happy that I made the choice to play Roaring Moon after
So a
that happened.
nice little omen to be like, yeah, you made the right choice based off of your first matchup. That you're glad you switched off of it, and you were hoping it was going to go about the same for the rest of the day.
And then round 2 and 3, I played against Charizard. Matchups about 50-50 in my experience. If you play well and win the dice roll and get to go second, you win. If they win the dice roll and get to go second, it's a lot harder. It's also a matchup where you really can't make a single mistake or you're going to lose a game. We'll get to that more later on how my day 2 went. But so yeah, I beat Rapid Strike round 1. I beat Charizard back-to-back rounds, round 2 and 3. I played against Giratina Lost Box round 4, which is almost an auto win as long as you don't brick. If you both play the game, the matchup's very easy. You just boss the Giratinas, take 2 prizes for free. It's really hard for them to catch back up. The only way you can lose the game is if you're not careful and you let them get like a Sableye playoff, but with Emergency Jelly and a couple other of the techs in the deck, it's pretty easy to navigate the matchup. Round 5, I ran into my unwinnable matchup. The downside to playing Roaring Moon is you cannot beat Gardevoir. Unless the Gardevoir player literally does not play the game, you will lose. The matchup is very bad. For consistency purposes, we've cut the water energies from the deck. Water energy, it's cool and it makes the matchup a little better, but it doesn't make it good enough to justify the inconsistency that comes with playing off-color energies in your deck just for Greninja. So that matchup is very bad. Round 6, I played against Charizard again. I was on tilt from playing Gardevoir round 5. There was a very specific moment, game 2. I won game 1, we go to game 2, and I played an escape route, and I was supposed to promote a Moltres, boss his Rotom, kill his Rotom, and then I'm pretty sure I run away with the game. And because I was on tilt and not thinking good, I actually moved the wrong Pokemon into the active off escape rope and completely lost the game. And then got right over game 3 because that's karma. After that, I actually shout out to my opponent that round. His name was Juan. He was from Puerto Rico. He's a really cool guy. He talked me off of tilting and basically told me to get my head back up and win my next 2 rounds. So I lost to him, and then I played against Miraidon, which is another pretty much auto-win matchup for the deck. You're very favored into every single 2-prize matchup because you can just one-shot any Pokemon in the game. So you're very favored against the 2-prize and 3-prize matchups, but beat Miraidon that round. The next round after that, I played against the Gold Dingo deck, Palkia Gold Dingo. I 2-0'd him very quickly. That deck is not very good. It's very cool. I think the deck has potential next format, but right now, don't play that deck. It is not good. You have 20 cards in hand and still can't do anything.
Well, luckily, the next format isn't too far away, and honestly, if you're playing against the Golden Go deck that late in the day, it had to be doing something right.
Yeah, I think he just had good matchups most of the day.
I mean,
that deck is good against Charizard. That is like the one good side to playing it. And then round 9, I got paired against a local guy playing Iron Valiant. I chose to draw with him because I didn't want to knock out another local guy, so we drew in the day 2. But that matchup's very good, and you probably shouldn't do that. If you're in that position, you should probably take your win. But
so you finished day one 6-2-1, which was
6-2-1.
the absolute bare minimum to make day
Yeah.
two.
Yep.
And from what you were mentioning earlier before we started the interview, Roaring Moon wasn't very heavily represented in the grand scheme of things during day one. I believe the statistic was something around 3% of all the decks being played. But then we move on to day two, and looking at percentages, Giratina box has taken the largest part of it at 18%, Charizard EX at 14%, Roaring Moon made it up all the way up to 12%. That it was just performing that well, followed by Gardevoir at 11. So it looks like either one of your decks probably would have put you in about the same kind of share of the percentage there. So why don't you give me a little bit of rundown of how day two went for you?
So day two, let me preface, which I did not get enough sleep after day one. If you ever make day two of a tournament, make sure you get back to the hotel, get some sleep. Don't be an idiot and stay up way too late doing nothing and make some mistakes day two. So I got there day two. I got there pretty late, like probably 10 minutes before the round started. And I just wasn't completely mentally there and ready to play Pokemon. Round one of day two, I got paired against Charizard. We played a very intense first two games. We go to game three, and I forget exactly what I did, but there was a point in the game where I made like a very critical decision, and I made the wrong decision, and I just got ran over the rest of the game. I think I bossed something, and I should not have bossed. So I lost round one. I was pretty defeated at that point. I was like, well, if I lose another round, there's no point in playing anymore because my goal was top 32. If I couldn't top 32, I was done playing because at this point, Worlds points don't really mean much to me because I didn't know you had to opt in. So, fun fact, opt in. So I wasted like an entire half of the season. So I was mainly just in it to try to top 8 or top 32. So I lost that round. I decided if I lost another round, we were going to drop and go home because it's a 7-hour drive, long drive. Neither of my buddies that rode with me made day two. So next round, I got paired against Rapid Strike, which, as we went over earlier, is a buy for the deck. You just win that matchup. So I won that match 2-0. My opponent actually misplayed really bad. He even admitted it. He could have double gunnered my Mew EX and won the game one. I don't think it would have mattered in all three games, but game one, I didn't do anything for 4 turns, and he almost stole the game. But the matchup is so good that me sitting there doing nothing for 4 turns, I still won the game. The next round after that, I played against Charizard. Me and my opponent, game one, both sat there and did nothing for 5 turns and stared at each other. And then we both got going, and I actually managed to win game one, which was pretty cool. Game two, he got to go second, and I just got absolutely ran over. The matchup is very bad when they go second. It's not necessarily because you can attack 1-1. It's just they set up so much better going second because they can Arvin for Battle Pass and Seal Stone Battle Pass for a V, use the Seal Stone, get another Battle Pass, and just double Battle Pass, and basically their board is unbeatable at that point. And then game three, I made like 4 really, really bad decisions. I missequenced a Pokestop. I missequenced a research. And if you don't know what missequencing means, it basically means you want to thin your deck as much as possible before you make decisions a lot of the times. And I just was on autopilot and made the wrong decisions on when to research and when to Pokestop. And I burned way too many resources on the first turn. And I could not set up a second attacker, and I just completely lost the game from that. So, yeah, that's and once I lost that round, I decided to drop because, well, I didn't drop. I stayed in the tournament, so somebody got a free win, but that was pretty much the end of my tournament when that happened.
Hey, at least somebody got to, they did get that free win, and then obviously the tournament probably dropped you immediately after that.
They do, yep.
So, all things considered, if looking at statistics, you're looking at just over 2,000 players in this tournament showed up for day one.
2,200.
2,200, and then 220 made day two.
10%.
And looking at the ranking specifically, you did end up finish 207. So even with the the losing out there, having that rough day two, you still didn't end up at the bottom of the bracket, even for day two. I do know that a Giratina Lost Box build did end up winning the entire tournament. So you had already mentioned that you were planning on playing Gardevoir, then you decided after playing a few games the night before that it was too much brain power that you didn't want to have to exert for an entire day, so you swapped over to the Roaring Moon deck. Now, Roaring Moon does have a few slots that you can get a little bit more creative with. So what is it that you have changed versus some of the other lists that you've seen recently?
I'm not going to take credit for this. It's Ross Cawthorn's list. And if you do plan on playing this deck, I'd recommend copying his most recent list from Charlotte, because he made a few changes that after I played this deck all day one, and said there were like 4 cards I wanted to change. And his updated list that he played at Charlotte played the 4 cards that I wanted to play. So that was kind of cool. So I would say that a lot of the decisions on what build to play of Roaring Moon come down to like your supporter choices. Early Roaring Moons, we're all playing 4 Sadas. This card is actually really bad. The more you play the deck, the more you realize Professor Sadas is not what you want to be doing. You still play 2 because the card is very good, like turn 2 and 3, but you never want to be using Sadas on turn 1 unless you absolutely have to. The main goal of the deck is to actually use Research and Squawkabilly. So your entire plan turn 1 is to use both Squawkabilly and Research. You just want to thin your deck. You want to get as many of the energies out of your deck as you can, and a lot of the dead draws gone, and you just want to turbo through your deck. And then you set up turn 1 attackers through the use of Galarian Moltres, which is a free Dark Patch every turn, Dark Patch, which is a Dark Patch, and Energy Switch. So your main combos are you put a bunch of energies in the grave, you Moltres and energy back to Moltres, you energy switch it onto a Roaring Moon. Pretty much all you need is 2 ways to get an energy from the graveyard back, and you can attack on turn 1 every game. Against single prize matchups, you want to try to attack with Morpeko on turn 1, because Morpeko switches the energies to your Roaring Moon, so then you have an attacker on turn 2, and you're only trading 1 prize for 1 prize. It's very important to do this in the Charizard matchup, because if you just move up Roaring Moon on turn 1 and attack with it, take 1 prize, they're always going to take 2 prizes back on turn 2, and you're just very far behind the rest of the game. Another thing about the Charizard matchup, this card, Emergency Jelly. This card is insanely good, and you have to play it. I would honestly play 2 if I were to play this deck again. It makes it so when you Frenzy Gouging, instead of having 200 damage on your Roaring Moon, you have 80. So it changes the math a lot in the Charizard matchup and the Lost Box matchup, because if you Frenzy Gouge against Charizard and you don't have Emergency Jelly, they just move up Charmander and knock you out with a Charmander, and then you're behind on the prize trade. And against Lost Box, they do the same thing. If you Frenzy Gouge a Giratina, they move up Cramorant and take a free knockout. So you really need the Emergency Jelly. Like I said, I would play 2 because I milled this card off Pokestop a lot over the weekend, and I always wished I had a second one. And that's all their card, Pokestop. I hate this card. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. But you have to play it in this deck, and this build specifically. The entire point of the deck is to just get through as many cards as you can, get as many options as you can, and with playing a very fast deck, you need the Pokestop to get extra resources. And worst case scenario, you mill bad cards. So, you know. And the one last thing I want to mention, you have to play 2 of this card. People called me crazy like 3 months ago when I said I really wanted 2 Moltres in the deck. But Ross Cawthorn plays 2. He's been doing the best with the deck out of anybody, and you learn very quickly when you prize your Moltres how important Moltres is for the deck. So you play 2 Vs in the deck. It's either 2 Moltres or Moltres and Luminion, and then you play Sealstone. Moltres is just the way better card. Luminion takes bench space, doesn't really do anything, and you just don't want it. So play 2 Moltres.
All right, so that's a fantastic recap on some of the tech that you're playing to prepare for the other decks you're going to be playing against in the meta. So just to circle back to regionals, so if you had to give any advice to somebody who might be aspiring to go play in the regionals to maybe make it to Worlds or anything like that, what would you recommend that they do? Like, is it just play testing? Is there any type of mental preparation they should have for the day that they're about to encounter when going into regionals for the first time?
I would say Pokemon is a very unique card game in the sense that you're better off playing what deck you know. I ultimately chose to play Roaring Moon because I've been playing it the entire format since it came out. It's my favorite deck. I have fun playing it. It's a very cool deck to play. And while it might not be the best deck, it is the deck I know the best right now, so that's why I chose to play it. When you're playing 15 to 18 rounds of a game, you really need to know your deck. You want to save as much brain power as you can, and knowing how to pilot your deck on a good level is going to save you a lot of brain power versus having to think every playthrough. I can't tell you how many Lost Box players I've played against where it's apparent they have never played Lost Box before in their life, and they make like 7 mistakes while taking 15 minutes to play a turn because they just don't have the reps with the deck. So I would say play decks you have reps with, and if you really want to play a deck, make sure you have enough reps to know your basic lines and even some of the intermediate lines. You can't be using brain power for basic decisions. You need to save your brain power for the harder games and the harder decisions. That would be my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice would be take it a round at a time. Even though it's a big tournament, it's 15 rounds. Treat it like a local. Every round you're just going to play, have fun. You'll get a lot of stress out, not worrying about your record and just playing the game and trying to have a good time. I've played in many 15-round tournaments over the years for other card games where I took things way too competitive. The only reason I was there was to try to win, but Pokemon's different for me. I really tried to actually enjoy the game, and I think it's made a big difference in my mental game and just playing well overall. It's just enjoying the game, enjoying the rounds, and treating it like a local versus a super competitive tournament where you have to win. So those would be my 2 major pieces of advice, and my other third piece would be what I said earlier. If you make day 2, make sure you get enough sleep and don't go out and eat like crap the night before because that will slow you down day 2 also. So eat a good balanced meal, get some sleep, and be ready to play on day 2.
All right, John. Well, I appreciate you coming in and sitting down with us, giving that quick little rundown on the regionals, and hopefully we'll see you at the next Pokemon tournament we hold here at the store.
All right. Thank you.